Microphone check 1, 2. What you gonna do after 3? It's your girl, Sheena Speaks. Your friend, your coach, your wing girl. Wait, I didn't do that right. Your wing girl. There you go. Oh, I just felt like forcing these just now. All right, welcome to the After 3 podcast where we drop 3 and you make moves. We are still in season 0 of the After 3 podcast. And if you don't know or you don't remember what season 0 is all about, it's about me dropping a podcast anyway. It's about me dropping a podcast without being perfect. It's about me dropping a podcast without all the bells and the whistles and the intro and the outro music. And season 0 is themed messy on the mic because this is the part most people hide. The trial runs, the rough edges, the bad sound, me making mistakes, me stumbling on my words, the background noise, me losing my train of thought, breathing heavy, smacking my lips. That's why it's messy on the mic. And I am a recovering perfectionist. I'm done with perfectionism. Done with it. So y'all gonna get these tips how I got them. And I promise you, listen, I am in the business of learning and growing. So I decided to learn and grow out loud. And y'all gonna watch me go from no audio to full live at the studio. That's what we're getting. So already season 1 has some upgrades coming. I'm excited for that. Can't wait to show y'all that. But we're going to keep season 0 going throughout the end of the year. So I just want to make sure that I'm keeping it real transparent. I have not dropped an episode in 3 weeks, but I'm back. You want to know why I'm back? I'm back because of today's topic, accountability. It is so important that we hold ourselves and each other accountable for those things that we said that we are going to do to align with those things that make us who we are. And it's so important. And what I love about accountability, and this is a topic that I teach from the front line to the top line. And in my experience, I have seen people at the top line still struggle to hold people accountable. And this is the level that I expect to know how to hold people accountable, but they still struggle. And one of the things that I would teach when it comes to accountability is accountability doesn't have to be nasty. You don't got to be mean. You don't have to be out of pocket. And I would give them ways to do that. But what's really cool about where I am right now on this podcast is I literally had someone hold me accountable according to the way that I teach others how to hold people accountable. So my stuff was used on me and I love it. And that's what I want to talk about today. So I'm having a conversation with one of my peoples, and we were having a conversation about some other topic. And out of nowhere, he asked me, why did you stop doing the podcast? And instantly I was like, oh, snap. As a matter of fact, I believe that was my response. I said, oh, snap. You listened to that? I didn't know you were listening to that. And what's interesting is I look at the stats. It's like 1 or 2 of y'all that listen every week. I don't know who's listening. I just can see the numbers. And he was one of them. So I was super happy to find out who one of my listeners were. So immediately when he asked me that question, the guilt started coming. And then I noticed I started giving him all my excuses. And I say excuses because, listen, there is a difference between excuses and a reason. But when I reflected on what I felt were reasons at the time, they were really excuses. So here's the first one. The last episode was on November 24th, which was the week of Thanksgiving. But after Thanksgiving, I don't know, maybe I got distracted because family were over and maybe I didn't feel like doing a podcast. I don't know what it is, but I allowed Thanksgiving to distract me. And what's interesting about that is there was nothing preventing me from dropping a podcast. So for the 1 or 2 of y'all that are out there that listen to my podcast, you already know my podcasts aren't that long. So I could have made time, 30 minutes, to go ahead and record a 10-minute podcast, but I didn't do that. So that was an excuse. The second excuse I gave him, oh yeah, and then the following week, I had to go out of town to New Orleans. And that was a true statement. But here's why it was an excuse. Because throughout that schedule that week, there was nothing preventing me from being able to set aside 30 minutes to record a little 10-minute, 11-minute podcast. Excuse. And then the third one, which he don't know about, we're like 2 weeks in now, and now I'm going on 3 weeks of not dropping a podcast. Now, this is after I've been held accountable now. I start rationalizing. Well, the last podcast was on November 24th, and that could be a clean break. Season 0 can end on November 24th. And mind you, I'm rationalizing because the original plan was for season 0 to end the last Monday of December, not November. But I start rationalizing. Yeah. Let's let season 0 end on November 24th, and I'll use all of December to start working on season 1. No, that wasn't the plan. The plan was you're going to run season 0 through the last Monday of December, and you're going to drop a podcast every Monday, not just Monday, but Monday at 3 o'clock. My goal was very specific. So for a couple of days, that made me feel okay. It's like, yeah, that's a plan. But again, that guilt started coming. It's like, now you skirting on the thing that you said you were going to do. And I told my friend, I said, hey, yeah, I am working on it. And my plan was to work on it, right? But then I said, you know what? My friend held me accountable. Now it's really time for me to hold myself accountable. And that's what I love. And it also reminds me, so I call that supportive accountability. Another example of supportive accountability for anybody that used to rock with Weight Watchers back in the day. I don't know if they're still doing it now. When you would go to the in-person session, part of the program was for you to weigh every Monday. So every Monday you get on the scale, and then you'll get feedback, and then you'll make a plan. And what I love about the Weight Watchers accountability was no matter what the result was, you were held accountable, but it was all still supportive. So if I didn't gain anything, it was like, hey, that's all right. Let's talk about what did your week look like, and what's one thing you could do differently this week. If I lost, of course, they congratulated me, and then they still asked me, what did you do to hit that number? And I would tell, all right, keep doing that. And maybe what's one thing you can do to take it to the next level? So it positively reinforced me to continue with that behavior. And then when I gained, you would think they would come down on you. They did not. They said, hey, listen, things happen. And one thing I like about the things happen, you can't belabor the point of what you didn't do. That's gone. It is done. All you can do now is move forward. And they say, all right, so listen, so let's talk a little bit about what happened. And then let's talk a little bit about what you can do differently this week to have a better result next week. That's all accountability. I may have felt bad because I didn't do well, but they never made me feel bad. It was all supportive, and that supportive accountability was the thing that helped me to be successful while I was on the program. And one of the things that I think is important is everybody is different. I have people in my circle who like to be harsh to hold people accountable because they say, listen, that's the only way that they're going to do it. You got to just keep it real and be harsh. And that may be all right because some people do like to be spoken to that way. Some people like to be punished when they don't do what they're supposed to do, but not everybody likes that. So you got to know your audience when you're holding people accountable. Some things will work for some and some things will work for others. Just learn your audience. So I'm going to give you 3 ways to practice supportive accountability. And I want to make sure I stay on point with this. So give me a second to pull up my notes. So 3 ways to practice supportive accountability is notice without judgment. When you notice that someone didn't do something that they said they were going to do, you can speak that truth. hey, I noticed the deadline was missed. And in my situation, I was asked a question, which is my point number 2. But let's say it was a notice or observation. Hey, I noticed you didn't drop the podcast this week. Just notice without judgment. I come from a background in a culture, personally, where people will notice and they may say things that are not helpful. So let's say you're somebody that gained weight and you probably told people that you were hoping to lose 20 pounds. The next time they see you, they tell you what they notice. They notice that you gained weight. So it may sound a little something like this. Man, I thought you said you was going to lose some weight. You bigger than you was the last time I saw you. Yes, that's an observation, but was it a helpful one? Was it an observation without judgment? No. Now, some people that may not bother, some people that may bother them and it may push them to do, and then other people, it might just make them feel bad. Know your audience. Notice without judgment. And then don't do it in public. You got to pull people to the side. Hey, so how's the weight loss going? I noticed, well, let me back it up. I remember you said you were going to try to lose 20 pounds by this date, right? So you are making an observation, you're communicating your observation, but you're not judging them. I remember you saying, right? Because that brings the person back to what they said to you. And then you move into the next point, which is ask. Ask instead of assume. You might ask the question, well, how much weight did you lose? And let that person tell you, shoot, I didn't lose nothing. I gained everything I tried to lose. Because I can tell you this, especially when it comes to weight, and maybe weight is not a good example, but when it comes to weight, sometimes people can actually lose weight before you notice it. So if you speak in a way that you assume that they haven't lost or they appear to look bigger to you, because the whole outfit can do that to you as well. You're assuming. Ask the question. How much weight did you lose? And then that opens up the door where you can find out, did the person do what they say they were going to do? Or maybe they need some help from you. Maybe they need some tips. What got in the way? Where are you stuck? How can I support you? How about 3 days a week I come over and you and I take a walk? Ask the question. And we go ahead and move into my point number 3, which is focus forward. Like I said, you can't fix what wasn't done. That's done. All you can do is focus forward. I have a former team member that worked on my team where he had this analogy that I loved. We used to have these debriefs after events or trainings or orientation where it was a process improvement. And basically we would talk about what went well, what didn't go well, did we have any ball drops? And we would identify ball drops, not to belabor the point, but to identify where do we drop the ball. What can we do next time so that we don't drop that same ball again? We might drop other balls, but we're not going to drop that same ball again. And he gave this analogy that stuck with me, and I hope he knows I stole it because I do teach it. But he said, listen, when you drop the ball, pick it up and take it down the court. That's all you can do. You drop the ball, pick it up, take it down the court. So I never said this to my friend, but I'll say it now. Thank you so much for holding me accountable. You weren't loud. You weren't aggressive. You weren't condescending. You weren't blaming. You were just paying attention. And because you were paying attention, here we are, episode 8 of the After 3 podcast. And not only are we going to do episode 8, we're going to do episode 9 and 10 so we can finish out the year. Okay? So thank you for that. And to all my people on the other side of this, don't punish people for holding you accountable. Thank them. Now, if they hold you accountable in a way that is not effective for you, it is up to you to speak up and say, hey, listen, thank you for holding me accountable. But don't be calling me piglet. Don't be calling me names, because then I'm going to ignore you. Or whatever consequence you have for them. I'll leave that up to you. So there you have it. 3 ways to practice accountability, or what I like to say is supportive accountability. Notice without judgment. Ask instead of assuming. And focus forward. Accountability does not have to be nasty. It doesn't have to be demeaning. It doesn't have to be rude. It doesn't have to be condescending. It could be a notice or a question that reminds you of what you were going to do. Or it could be a notice or a question that reminds you of who you said you were. So if it hit, let it sit. It's your girl, Sheena Speaks. And this is the self-leadership conversation that needed to happen. Brought to you by Trifecta Strategies. Follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and visit us at www.trifecta3.com. 3 the number, not the word. Don't just talk about it, be about it. I'll see you next time.